Welcome back to the Paranoid Perspective. I am Jake.
And I'm Sarah.
Today we're going to hit you with a double feature, kind of a two for one, so to speak. So I don't know what we're going to title this. I thought it was kind of funny. We could just do birds and spheres, you know?
Yeah, we can think about it.
Well, yeah, that'll be the working title. So if you guys clicked on this and you
Yeah.
see something else for the title, we didn't go with birds and spheres, but that is the working title as of right now. So what are we going to talk about, Sarah? I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, so I've got Birds Aren't Real, which is a fun one.
It is a fun
I'm
one.
also wearing a shirt for it that it has a crow and it says cease your investigations.
Where did you get that?
My friend got it for me for my birthday.
Dude, I need to get that shirt.
I love
So,
it, yeah.
so quick little side note. I just got back from vacation and I went to Great Smoky Mountains, and I was at one of these little shops, and it had a silhouette of Bigfoot in like the woods, like peeking behind a tree, and it said, "Bro, I'm right here," and almost bought it, but
Why didn't you?
because I was already getting other stuff, and I don't know. But now thinking
Yeah.
back on it, I feel like I need to make another trip and just get that because that is hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could find anything online, but
Well, that's true.
yeah, so I wanted to wear this shirt because it's funny. But if you don't know about birds aren't real, there's a conspiracy that says that all birds have been replaced with drones by the US government to spy on its citizens. And
Fair.
it's only in the US, apparently.
Okay. Yeah. Very, very US
So,
centric again. Uh,
yeah,
well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but that seems like a daunting task. When were all birds replaced? You know what I mean? Like, were there some that got
right.
away? Were there some
Probably.
robots that were intermingled or drones that were intermingled with real birds as they were exterminating,
Hmm.
the population?
Yeah. And what about the Canadian birds? They just zap them right when they get over the border. Not
Well,
can't be here. No real ones here.
Canadian geese are just dying by the thousands just from going
Right, yeah.
migrating down here for the winter.
Right, yeah. And then they're replaced by the drones. Every single one. Yeah. Well, apparently this was created in 2017 by a guy, specific person. Peter McIndoe is what I'm gonna say.
Mackendo?
McIndoe,
Okay.
I guess.
Mickendo. We'll go with both.
Yeah, McIndoe. He created it in January 2017. Apparently, he saw like pro-Trump counter protesters at like a women's march in Memphis. So then he joined the pro-Trump counter protesters and he wrote "Birds aren't real" on a poster because he thought it would be funny that it had nothing to do with the protests and stuff. Like
That
kind of
sounds
making
like
fun.
my kind of guy. We're going to go to a
Right.
political rally, but we're just going to make up some random shit.
Yeah. And he also like yelled stuff. He said he put "birds aren't real" because that's the most absurd thing he could think of. He was also 18. So,
I mean, fair.
yeah.
My thing is, okay, so I knew that about that time frame is when it started because I started seeing memes
Yeah.
about it and stuff like that. I didn't know it was just one dude that just showed up at a political rally just to be like, "Hey,
Right.
here's some dumb shit for you guys."
Right. Yeah, I didn't know that either. But yeah, I mean, he was there with friends. He thought it'd be funny. One of his friends like took a video of him there, so that like took off. But I guess at the protest, he just said, I'm angry and I'm here to protest. Wake up, America. Birds aren't real. They're a myth. They're an illusion. Thank you for your time." That's what he said.
Hey, short, sweet, and to the point too. We're just gonna get our message out. We're not gonna have all the fluff. Just get it out.
Right. So I think they posted it to YouTube and then it like took off. Like so many people loved it and everything. And he kind of, I think he posted to Facebook as well, saying at first, like, this is satirical and it's like going crazy.
Yeah.
But then later he took down the post and said, like, a staffer wrote it and that staffer was fired because birds aren't real. And
So
the
just playing
staffer's
into it
trying
even
to,
more.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was like a freshman in college and he like quit. He dropped out of college to like do this full time.
Hey, look, there's no shame in the game, okay? It's the same thing like we talked about with flat Earth. Hey, if you're gonna
Yeah.
grift, get after it, man. Be unabashedly a grifter, you know?
Right. Yeah, so I mean that's what he did. He said at the time that he thought he would regret it if he didn't lean into it more. And so yeah, he moved to Memphis to do it.
Why Memphis?
And that's like where the protest was. So that's where he was
Ah,
with
I
the
see. Okay.
and like I guess it was big on I don't know, maybe he could see it was Memphis on YouTube or something. I don't know. He just thought there's an audience there,
That's the
I
epicenter.
guess.
That's where it began, and damn it, that's where we're gonna be, okay?
Yeah. And he also invented a cowboy character. Like he embodied this character that actually believed birds aren't real to be like the spokesperson for the movement. So
I
he
mean,
started going to rallies and stuff.
everybody needs a mascot. Every group needs it. You gotta have it, you know? And what
Yeah,
better than a ignorant cowboy yelling birds aren't real, you know?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and he went with this like he started creating the theory and everything in the backstory and like he didn't actually admit like publicly that it was fake until 2021. So he did this for 4 years where
Hey,
he was this guy and driving around.
and I'll tell you what, you never seen a baby pigeon before, have you? Didn't think so.
That that's exactly one of the things that
Hey,
he says.
all I'm saying, you could have gotten an awesome public education or maybe whatever college he was going to, maybe it was private. You could have gotten a college level education, but you know what? You made the world a better place for just coming up with
Yeah,
some bullshit. Because now we have awesome
right.
shirts that I really want.
I mean, it's funny. And that's where he gets most of his money, I think, from merch.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so the official theory I think that he like finally came up with, he said that the birds were exterminated by the federal government, of course,
Of
between
course.
1959 and 1971 and
Wow.
replaced with drones. Yeah, I guess he couldn't pick a year or something, or it took that long. I don't know. And yeah, he does say the baby pigeon thing because only adults are spy drones. They can't make babies, baby, as the drones.
Well, okay. Let's break this down a little bit. So everything was replaced in, you said, the late 70s, right? All the birds were replaced with
The
drones.
early 70s.
Early 70s. I'm sorry.
59 to 71.
Okay, yeah. So at that time, technology, man, you couldn't scale down some of that stuff. It had to be big.
Right.
Maybe the
Yeah.
adult sized pigeon is the large or the smallest thing they could do. And you know, the government, man, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah. Right. They're not going to replace it. They also use catchy slogans, of course, like if it flies, it spies.
Oh yeah. So so not only is this gentleman coming up with the most absurd theory ever, he is a fantastic marketer.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Like
is. I mean, I don't know if
kudos
he's
to you,
come
man.
up with like all of them. Like, I
Well,
don't know if he came up with this shirt or where, or, other people probably selling stuff at this
y-
point.
right.
But yeah, they claim that birds sit on power lines to recharge. That's how they recharge. Birds defecate on cars as a tracking method, so they can track your car.
Okay.
JFK was assassinated by the government because of his reluctance to kill all the birds.
Uh, that maybe.
Yeah. And like, I mean, he's made diagrams of how a bird drone would work, like where the speaker and the battery and everything would be in the bird.
But why does it need a battery if they recharge? Well, never mind. It would need some
It's
sort of, yeah.
rechargeable, yeah.
Sorry. I'm thinking too much into this. My bad.
Yeah, and a microphone and a camera. I mean, obviously the camera's the eyes
Oh.
and a microphone speaker.
So here's my question. Funny story for the listeners. I don't know if you've heard this either. When I used to work with Dad, we were driving out to go get some food one time, and I had my arm hanging out the window, and I got pelted in my forearm with a bunch of goose shit because they were flying overhead, and it hurt so fucking bad. Oh, did I get?
Really?
Yeah, dude. Did I get like marked or get a tracker? You know
Yeah,
what I
they need
mean?
to
Like
track you. Yeah. Maybe it like injected into your skin.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They're,
and
they,
they've been tracking you ever since.
I apparently
Yeah, because there's not anything easier to use to track you that
no.
everyone carries every day.
Nope, not at all. Why would we think
Right.
that? No, we
Yeah.
So the thing is with this, I mean, it's fun. It's funny. There's all
Yeah.
the, lore, I guess, because you can think about it as such, but there's so much easier ways, even in the early 70s, to spy on somebody,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
You don't have to kill a whole flock of things.
Well, and my question would be, I mean, everything is a part of the food chain. And if you killed all the birds, hey, are we talking ostriches too? Because that's terrifying. If ostriches
I
are
think
fucking drones,
so. Well,
look,
they're not native to the US, though, you know?
fair, but they're in the fucking US.
Just in the zoo to pretend that they're real still,
I have
I
been
guess.
in places in Texas where people have ostriches.
Yeah, people do have them. Well, I mean, those people are bringing them in illegally, and those are real, right? So,
Okay, well, I'm
because the
freaking out
government
right
doesn't
now because
know.
I'm thinking like some Skynet
Or
cybernetic.
like emus,
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got some
the
killers.
emu war. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that's gonna be Bird 2.0.
Maybe,
They didn't do the big ones yet.
maybe. I mean,
Those are gonna be the tanks.
the assault forces, the emus and the ostriches.
Yeah. Or like eagles are really big too.
There, yeah, I was gonna say, even in like the Midwest and the South where you see like hawks and stuff like
Sure.
that and owls, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If those are robots, that's terrifying because they are massive. And if they wanted to
Right.
fuck you up, they're gonna.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they're a bird, so they count. They're not real.
Okay, but what
I guess
about
every single bird.
okay, that's what I'm saying though. Like even
Hummingbirds?
I mean, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Those
Dude,
are
they're the like super spies.
yeah, like the stealth bombers, you know what I mean? Or no, more of like they're like the UAVs, you know what I mean? They're super
Oh yeah,
fast
yeah.
and you can't really see them all the time unless they want you to see them.
Right. Yeah.
I
That's
don't know,
perfect.
man.
Yeah. I mean, good thing bees aren't birds,
Well, but
but
see, that's my other
'cause they're
question.
so small.
With technology always advancing, right? Because like phones, you can look back in the 80s how we used to have those like massive bricks that you would have to hold up to
Yeah.
your ear. And now we have stuff that is super tiny. And they've kind of started to go back a little bit to get bigger since the screens are part of it. But before then, they were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Are we talking? I mean, if they probably didn't stop in the late or early 70s, they
Well, I mean, the bees are declining, so maybe that's part
it
of it.
it
Next
may
is bees aren't real. The birds and the bees, they're gonna get both of
that's going to be a second conversation for your kids that you're going to have to explain, listeners.
them. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows how far they'll go?
I mean, it could go as far as anything with flight. You could have the butterflies
Yeah.
that, just look like they're drunk flying all over the place. Or maybe that's because they're like recharging or something. They don't have enough juice, so
Right.
they're kind of just, flying all
Yeah.
around looking groovy.
They gotta land on the flower to recharge.
See? And now we're looking at a whole nother slew of issues.
Well, I mean, that's the future, I guess, because right now they're just saying birds are.
Yeah, maybe we're reinvigorating this for more conspiracy theories to come up about all winged animals.
Right. Yeah. They talk about pro-bird propaganda because every state has a bird. And the US national seal is a bird.
Hmm.
Like company logos are birds, like Twitter and Nestle. Duolingo. You can't get away from it.
I mean, like you said though, I mean, we are poking fun at this, but there's so much easier ways. Like I understand the individual that created this did this as a joke,
Yeah.
but even when it's like it's kind of injected itself into all aspects of society now because I even when we were on vacation, people said that when we saw pigeons. They were like, "Oh, it's a fucking spy drone," and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I haven't heard
Yeah.
that in so long," and the fact that just you saw a pigeon and you're like, "Oh, hey, watch what you say," it's just hilarious. And the bad thing about it when these conspiracy theories, like, it's not everybody, obviously. I think most people think it's a joke,
Yeah.
but there are some people that you don't need to give them a reason, and they are gonna
Right.
whole ass their whole life into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate. Like, obviously, there are some people who believe it. I couldn't find like how many, but I think majority, like you said, don't like get that it's a joke. They do get it's a joke. like
Yeah,
obviously. But there are some people that actually believe it because he said there's been people at like rallies that come up to him and say like, "Yeah, I know the CIA and blah blah blah." Like, and
listeners,
like he
those are
doesn't think
called
they're joking.
schizophrenics.
Right, yeah. I mean, they could be joking, I guess, but like
They could be.
he doesn't think they are.
Well,
So there
and
are definitely some people, but
the unfortunate reality of the age in which we live in, you are able to interact with pretty much everybody on the planet at the touch of a button, and everybody on the face of the planet is not a sane person. There
right.
are plenty of maniacs out there that will believe hook, line, and sinker anything you say to them.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of think maybe since he didn't like discredit it for like 4 years, like he went hard into it,
For sure.
maybe that caused some people to believe it, like actually believe it. Also, I guess in 2018, news came out from China that they were actually developing like high-tech bird drones for surveillance. So that like gave it more credibility.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, I know the military, they've had these for a little while now, are these tiny little drones that are, 6 inches or whatever,
Yeah.
and yeah, it could be if you saw it flying, I mean, if it's high enough, you're probably not gonna hear it, and it's
Right.
gonna look like a bird flying. You know what I mean? Now, you could probably manufacture something to make it more bird-like, but I mean, we're not gonna see drones that are flapping its wings either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's just more parts to fail
right.
too.
Yeah.
So,
There's a reason why fixed wing aircrafts are pretty reliable because the wings don't move, hence the name.
yeah. Yeah. But in 2019, he actually paid for a billboard to say birds aren't real in Memphis.
I mean,
And he also bought a van that said birds aren't real with all the facts on it to take on the road for his
his grift.
show or whatever. Yeah. And I don't, do you remember this in 2021? Reporters demanded that Twitter change its bird logo because birds aren't real.
I
I
don't remember
remember
that.
that. I mean, it was like a sign this petition kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I don't think I ever like really used Twitter, like hardly
Oh
ever.
yeah, I don't use Twitter either, but I
But
remember that. But
I don't know. Like I think in 2021 I was too focused on like doing different things. I don't know. I don't remember if I was on a lot of social media during that time.
yeah.
So I don't know. But
Um, yeah, in 2019 he had an interview with like a TV thing, like WREG TV, where he was like playing the character still, where he was offended when they asked
hell
if
yeah.
this was satirical. Yeah. But yeah, in 2021, like I said, he like officially said, yes, this is fake and I'm playing a character and stuff.
He's
So
he hung up the cowboy hat, you know, took off his
yeah.
boots, put his feet up.
Yeah, and I guess in January 2022, he interviewed with like Vice as like not a character, like as the person, like for why he made the movement. And he interviewed with 60 Minutes too. So he
Wow.
said the purpose, yeah. Yeah, I was like kind of crazy, but he said the purpose of making it though, was it's taking the concept of like misinformation and like building a space where everyone knows it's fake and they can laugh about it instead of being like afraid of it
Right.
and like accept the lunacy of some of these conspiracy theories. But it's just sad that people actually believe it now.
Well, that's the thing though. The word misinformation is so hard to pin down, because
Yeah.
we're flooded with so much info daily. And you really got to sift through it if you want to find
Oh, yeah.
like a non-biased anything. Because we all have a bias towards something. It's just something that we have as human beings. So when we hear things like objective news or objective articles, like it's not 100%. You got to get like multiple different sides of it in order to really understand. And the bad thing about it is the people that believe the birds aren't real thing, they're probably the typical, and I don't mean to generalize, but I'm just assuming the headline readers. They see a headline, they're like, oh, look, you know what I mean? So,
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you really have to dig a lot to find like accurate or just figure out what's going on. I don't know. That takes a lot of energy. So
I don't
people
think
don't want to do that anymore.
people have enough time,
Yeah,
honestly, because it's just so much
it's
getting
too much.
blasted
Yeah.
at you all day, man. You're not going to be able to do it. And I think that's one of the reasons why you have people that are very, you know, hyper focused on maybe one source of information just because it's easy. You just get what you need.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is good in some aspects, but also bad in some when we think that birds aren't real because they're reading,
Yeah.
you know, the what was that like? What was that magazine way back in the day? The Daily Inquirer, but whatever the
Yeah.
internet equivalent of the Infowars. There you go. They're only consuming stuff from Infowars and Alec Jones. You know,
Hmm. Right.
so
Yeah. He also had a TED Talk, I guess, in 2023. So that's kind of crazy.
man, he's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, he's made it a big deal, I guess. Yeah, I mean, during his interview, he talked about like how he just thought it was funny and, he kind of had to make the movement later and figure out what it was about. And he talked about telling his parents that he was dropping out of college to do this. And they were like, they didn't get it, obviously, because they're parents and they were afraid for him. He said it was like an art project. That's how he like pitched it
Oh,
to them.
sure, we go with that.
Yeah. And he also did enlist a friend, Connor Gaydos, I guess, a history buff. I don't know. It's Gaydos. Gaydos, I
We'll go with
guess.
that. We'll go with that.
Yeah. And like he wanted him to write the backstory of The Birds Aren't Real since he was a history buff. And I guess they made a book now that published last year about the history of it. Like birds aren't real. It's called The True Story of Mass Avian Murder in the Largest Surveillance Campaign in US History. So you can buy that if you want, I guess. Not sponsored by Birds Aren't Real. I don't want
Not
to read it, but
I want to get it.
yeah.
I just want it to put on a bookshelf, and obviously I would read it if I had it. But
Yeah.
just for like 30 years from now, just
Right.
pull it out from somewhere and just be like, let me tell you about when people were crazy kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how long it is. I assume it's like a full book.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think so. At least 300 pages or whatever. So I would say that's all the history of the movement in that book, probably.
That's pretty rad.
Also, they felt they needed a deep state character as a whistleblower. So he invented and interviewed a character named Eugene Price. So this is on TikTok, I guess. Price is supposed to be a former CIA officer who buried evidence of the bird genocide and the rise of the drones.
You know,
They went far for
they
this.
did. And
Yeah.
my hat is off to those gentlemen because if you're going to lean into it and you're going to whole ass it, man, you guys did it. You know?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Yeah, he said when casting that character, he wanted to find like the oldest person he could find, someone who looked like they had a lot of guilt weighing them down from the mass
He's
bird
been through
genocide.
he's been through 4 divorces, he's buried evidence, he's got bodies in his basement. Perfect guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that video is titled The Confession of Eugene Price. So he like interviewed with him and it got over 10 million views on TikTok.
I believe it.
Yeah. But I mean, now he's maybe trying to campaign to undo if people believe it or whatever, because he's,
No,
interviewing and saying it's fake and everything.
he's just a shill that the federal
Yeah,
government got to him, you
that's
know?
true. Yeah.
Or they've made him into a drone.
Yeah. I mean, just like all the celebrities, right? They make into
Yeah,
like
yeah.
androids or whatever.
Body doubles, clones,
Yeah.
whatever you want to
Right.
say. Got them
Yeah.
what is it? Mission Impossible masks on.
Right. Yeah, he could have been, yeah, he could have sold out. But that's all there is about birds aren't real, which is why it's a short topic. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I did not realize it was one guy, or I guess him and his friend that came up with most of the theories.
well, I mean, crazier things have happened with, kids making stories up. And,
Yeah.
it's just, it happened to be at the right place, the right time with the right amount of social media and,
Yeah.
attention towards it. I mean, I think at that
Yeah,
time
he took a
too.
risk for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in anything you do like that, you're going to take a risk. But if he started that at one of those political rallies that already had like a crazy amount of attention towards it, yeah, of course, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to talk about that right off the rip. And I don't think he went to that rally with the intention of starting a movement. I think he was just
No.
being a dumb 18-year-old that,
Right.
I don't know. But I mean, like I guess like we kind of hinted at earlier, there are so much easier ways, like listeners, what you're listening to this on, or what's in your pocket right now, or like
Yeah.
I always think it's funny when you hear these crazy things about how the government's spying on you. It's just like, how every time you download an app and it says ask app not to track or whatever it says I mean, that's what it says on the Apple end. I don't know if it says that on the Android end, but you think honestly that those apps aren't tracking what you're doing? Like
Yeah.
it,
Right.
anything that needs to be found out about you is in the palm of your hand or in your pocket,
Right.
you know?
It's like people who think that Snapchats disappear. It's like, no, they
Right.
don't.
Right.
Police can definitely pull that if they have to. Like,
It's this weird like I said, I don't think human beings completely understand how to utilize this type of technology yet. Like it's still too new.
yeah.
We're just adjusting and we don't
Right.
know how to conceptualize it. So I think the people that do grab onto that probably are the type that like need like that single answer that just end all be all that answers everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
our birds aren't real, that answer? Highly doubt it. But as long as it works for you, I guess no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
No pun
Yeah. Have you
intended.
ever killed a bird and looked in it?
I can't say that I have,
Right. So,
honestly, and I don't know anybody that has.
right. That would suck if the apocalypse happens and you can't eat the birds.
I mean, shit, it's
Uh,
2025 right now, man. Who knows? Maybe all the animals are robots.
that's true. Yeah.
Apocalypse
Well,
happens and you go to kill a deer and next thing you know, you're just like, "Well, shit. All I'm getting is
yeah.
microchips and wires."
Yeah. That's the future.
Oh, man.
I
Well,
believe in birds. I'm gonna
I
end with that.
I'm going to end off agreeing wholeheartedly with you, Sarah. I believe in birds too. Even though I
Right,
have
just to
not
set the
seen,
record straight.
yeah, even though neither one of us have seen baby pigeons, we still believe in birds.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so what you got?
this one was kind of interesting to me because listeners, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of struggling to find something for this because I was looking for something that was dumb, and this is not dumb. It kind of is. But Sarah told me about the Betz Mystery Sphere, or just the
Mhm.
Betz Sphere, or however you want it, the weird metal thing. We'll go with the weird metal thing. But on March 27th, 1974, the Betz family investigated a small bushfire in their residence near Fort George Island, Florida. So it was three of them that were out there, and one of them, the son, Terry, came across a small metal sphere about the size of like a bowling ball. And their first thought that it had been a cannonball from New World conquistadors. That seems like a little bit of a stretch, especially if it was a metal, like you could tell it was metal, you know? Because
Yeah, that's true.
my thought process is you're walking like where a brush fire was. If you saw like a super shiny piece of metal, my first thought wouldn't be, "Hey, cannonball." My first
Right.
thought would be, "What the fuck is that?" Anyway, it's one of those like they kind of have like some conflicting things when they talk about this. But anyway, they ended up bringing the sphere back to their house. And here's where it starts to get a little weird. So a couple days later, Terry, the gentleman that found it, he's in his early 20s at this point, if I remember correctly. He was just sitting around playing guitar in the house, and the sphere started to react to the sound of his guitar. It
Mm.
made a quote unquote throbbing noise. Not the word I probably would have used, but
Yeah. Okay.
that's what we're going with. So it was almost like it was responding to his playing,
Yeah.
which,
Right.
I mean, metal is resident to a certain extent. I don't know how resident it would be for a guitar. I'm assuming an acoustic guitar. I could be wrong. He could have, massive amplifiers that is just shaking the whole house, and the whole house is throbbing.
Right, yeah.
But I'm gonna go with probably an acoustic guitar. But then it started doing other stuff. It started to roll on its own and even stop on its own, and it would change direction. So it's like this thing is sentient. It like kind of knows
Right.
what's going on.
Or it's possessed.
It's a conduit for an evil spirit. Maybe. I don't know. But they started doing experiments, and lo and behold, a metal sphere would reverberate when hit with a hammer. Couldn't have fucking guessed that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
uh, he also found that the sphere would move after being shaken and then placed on the ground. So almost like it has like
A
weights in it,
motor or something?
or
Oh,
some,
yeah.
yeah, some sort of internal structure that was creating it. Once you shook it, it would kind of move. And the whole family reported that the sphere would move on its own several times and that it would follow people around the house. That's fucking terrifying. I swear to
Yeah.
God, if I had a metal ball about the size of a bowling ball that I just found out in the woods and this motherfucker starts following me around, I'm calling a priest.
Yeah. Well, it's like a pet. Like a little
No,
pet.
it's a metal ball. I'm not doing anything. But eventually they stored the sphere in a trunk of a car and only took it out to show like family and friends, you know.
Okay. They're like, look at this weird ball, and then put
Yeah.
it back in the
Well,
trunk.
that's the thing. It's like,
Why not just put it back?
well, and to be fair, like when you first hear about like what they found and like the first analysis of it, it sounds like super, super weird. It doesn't sound normal. It sounds like something extremely alien, possibly paranormal, like I said, maybe a
Yeah.
fucking conduit to something. But here's where they started to, you know, they named it a couple things: the Betz Sphere, the Mystery Sphere, the Oddball. Once it kind of started like attracting attention because you start pulling this crazy ball out of your trunk and showing it to your
Right.
friends, and
Yeah.
if it supposedly moves on its own and fucking follows you, people are going to talk about it.
Yeah, they should sell tickets for it.
Oh yeah, well,
Not just showing this for free.
but there was a guy named Ron Kevitt, I believe. He was the host of a local radio show, The Paranormal Phenomenon. Pretty close to ours, two P's, but not quite.
Yeah.
So glad we didn't get copyright for that, man. We could have came up with
Yeah.
something bad. But he was one of the first people to like inspect it. People started talking about this thing. He got word of it. Obviously, he's a paranormal guy, so you got a metal ball you found out in the field and it follows you and it reacts to stimulus, quote unquote, supposedly. Yeah, want to check that out. Evitt, who has also had a place as a local lore and one of the writers of a locally produced cult monster movie. So he's like all into the paranormal and weird
Yeah.
stuff. But he, like many others, were convinced that the orb was of extraterrestrial origin, a device created by some cosmic intelligent for some unknown purpose.
Just to follow the family
Uh,
around.
well, see, and I'm happy I went with the Betz Sphere because what if this is the equivalent to birds aren't real, but for aliens? This is their
Yeah.
birds. You know,
Right.
maybe on their planet there's just metal fucking balls flying all over the place, which is kind of
Yeah,
terrifying.
maybe.
But
But don't get hit by one. God. You gotta constantly be ducking. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of like birds. Birds just fly into your face.
hey,
It's
there's
similar.
those ones in Australia that will literally like attack you. I
Yeah,
can't I
right.
can't remember. Magpie, I think is what they're called. I could be completely wrong on that, but yeah, those
Yeah, I
things are
think
brutal.
magpies will, yeah. Or they're swarm. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why people are afraid of birds.
I mean, I'm terrified of birds. They're freaking dinosaurs.
Really? Yeah, they are.
They look at you like they don't care, just like
Well, just like the metal balls.
the metal ball. It doesn't care. It's going to follow you around and just be indifferent. That's all it's going to do.
Did they now analyze what kind of metal it was?
So we're going to get into that just in a little bit
Okay.
because they started talking, or, it started gaining a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And it's not clear whether the Betts contacted the media or the media caught wind of it. That's one of those things that like kind of shaky on their story, but they caught wind of it, and the Jacksonville Journal and the Florida Times Union began covering the sphere and interviewing the mother about it. According to one of the reporters for the Jacks, or I'm sorry, yeah, according to one of the reporters, and they were, I'm sorry, lost my spot. Good podcasting here, folks. I'm just mesmerized, and I can't speak by the sphere,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. It's gotcha.
Yeah. But oh, okay. Yeah. So the reporters, were talking about how this had captured people's curiosity. And it was right around the time of like UFOs when they were super
Yeah.
popular and whatnot.
Right.
So it was one of those things that I think kind of was like a perfect storm when it hit, because you're talking the 70s, flying saucers, the media around flying saucers. You had radio talk shows about it. You had TV shows starting to come up about it. There was a lot of stuff happening in the mid 70s where, people were becoming the quote unquote aliens, the
Yeah.
ufologists or what, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. The iconic guy. Yeah.
But within about 2 weeks, it was making headlines locally, and it was a national story shortly
Wow.
thereafter too. So like it blew up. And
Yeah.
for something like that in the mid 70s just to be all over the place, like it had to have kind of been somewhat of a big deal. Like it wouldn't have just
Right.
been like whatever, it's just these crazy people that are trying to, sell some stuff, and I don't know. You would
Yeah,
think
you'd think that they would know, like, see that it's not doing anything or something
right.
and not write about it.
Yeah, and I mean, unless it's like a huge conspiracy where all of these people are in on it together
Yeah.
to do
That
something
would,
with, I don't know what that would be though.
right.
But when I was reading about that, and the local story, that makes sense because you could get in the local newspaper relatively easily, but nationally, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But pretty much everybody just was asking, "Well, what the hell is this crazy thing, and where did it come from?" Like nobody knew anything, and this is where it gets even like kind of crazier. So there was like a fever pitch curiosity with this. People were freaking out nationally about this. The US Navy wanted to look at the Betz Sphere.
Wow.
Like they
That's crazy.
wanted to take it and they wanted to analyze it and they wanted to figure out what it was. And from what
Why the Navy?
so that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, why is the Navy trying to,
Yeah.
get a hold of this thing? I couldn't really find anything. But the mother wrote up like a contract with the Navy to only have it for like 2 weeks to inspect
Hmm.
it.
Oh,
So
wow.
she was getting it back. You know what I mean? Like she was making sure that if they took it, it wasn't one of those like Men in Black things where they're like, you can't talk about this. If you talk about anything like this, we're going to bury you in the desert and nobody will find you. And she was like, no, this is mine. I want it back. You guys can look at it, but I don't know. But in the contemporary news reports, the Navy spokesman stated that they only found the ball was made of stainless steel. It was not their property. And what I mean, and I'm assuming they mean by their is the US Navy. And that while they couldn't determine what it was for, it was certainly constructed on Earth. That's what the Navy determined. Now, the Navy suggested that the tendency to move around was due to a small rectangular chip on the surface that threw it off, otherwise being like perfectly balanced. So there was a little chip on the outside, and that's what caused it to roll around. And possibly that
Okay.
maybe the Betts's floors were uneven. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
but my thing is from what their account is, when they say follow you, like I would think if your floor is uneven, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to try this real quick. I'm going to walk up the slant now.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I
Yeah.
don't
You're not
know.
just going to keep going the same way or whatever.
See, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not totally buying like this is like some crazy extraterrestrial thing, but I'm also not buying what the US Navy is saying. Like, it's too cut and dry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But after the Navy was done with it, there were a handful of scientists that were ready to take the next crack at the mystery, so to speak. It happened shortly after the Betz Sphere story had broken the National Enquirer. So we're kind of going off of that.
Yeah.
And a panel of 5 U.S. UFO investigators in New Orleans were the ones that eventually. I think it's funny how they stated scientists at the top of this because this doesn't sound
Right.
like scientists, but
Yeah. Not traditionally.
well, it does say that each of the members were either scientists or engineers, quote unquote, in their own right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go with ufologists.
Yeah, right.
Now,
Can you get a
granted,
degree in ufology yet?
I bet you there is somewhere you can. Now, I don't know how much weight that holds. I think you just
Yeah.
have to have crazy hair and go on the History Channel, but I could be wrong. But like I said, we're not talking like actual scientists here. I'm kind of having a little tongue in cheek with that when we talk scientists because yes, there are people that do a lot of research into a lot of weird things. And I'm not saying they're stupid people and I'm not saying that they're, crazy people either. But you're going in once again with a bias. You're a bunch of guys and girls that are, you know, from the National Enquirer, and you guys are UFO investigators. And like I said, I'm not trying to throw any shade your way. I'm just saying you're not probably the most scientifically minded people, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But their conclusions didn't, really turn anything up either. I've seen things about it where the Navy had x-rays of it supposedly, and there were the outside of it was about, if I remember correctly, about 2 inches thick. And remember, it's about the size of a bowling ball. So you're probably looking at about, I don't know, 12 inches in circumference, maybe
Yeah,
14,
probably.
something like that. You had a 2 inch thick outer layer. There was a substance on the inside. And then in between the outer layer, the substance, there was a core. So that would, if that was the case, that would make sense why it was able to roll like it was. There's a secondary ball or mechanism inside of it that could, if given the proper push or whatever, could probably roll for quite a while. But,
Yeah, probably.
you
It's
know,
probably just a toy or something.
it very well could be. I've seen other theories where it was a giant industrial ball bearing,
Okay, yeah.
you know, and if it's something huge like that, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I usually bearings are solid, and that'd be kind of hard to. I don't think it'd be hard. I think it would be a little impractical to make something that large out of stainless steel. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And be spherical
right.
like that. I could be completely wrong in that. I don't make those things, so I don't know. It's completely talking out of my ass right now. But I mean, it was kind of overwhelming for a lot of the family. The mother was getting like 20 like calls 24/7. The phone was just
Oh,
constantly
yeah.
ringing. People were showing up at their house. It like drastically changed their lives. Like they didn't have any privacy anymore, you know. And this is not, you know, what they wanted to be like known for. They just
Yeah,
wanted to kind of figure out what this thing was. And they probably didn't help very much because they did kind of lean into it once it started taking off because I'm sure they were making some money on it,
probably, yeah.
you know. But I don't know. For me, I'm not super convinced about either story, if we're being honest. The Navy doesn't smell right to me, and the fact that they say that this thing followed them around that's kind of where it lost me.
Yeah, right.
Now, as far as it reverberating with vibration, yeah, I'm here for that. I don't think it's some alien spying device or some alien piece of technology. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think if we saw an alien, kind of to harp back to the Fermi paradox episode, if we saw something that was technologically that more advanced than us, we wouldn't know what to do with it. It wouldn't
Right.
we wouldn't even know what it is. We wouldn't know how to interact with it. It just would be so foreign to us. But
Yeah.
seeing something like a sphere made of metal, that's not foreign to us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be anything, but we
Yeah.
understand it. Like,
Yeah, you can see it, you can pick it up, you can touch it. I mean, I think they said it weighed like 22 pounds or something like that. So, I mean, if it's that heavy too, I mean, it very well could have been. a steel ball bearing from some massive piece of machinery. I mean, they are in Florida. It could have been maybe off a ship, or it could have been, well, it was near a brush fire too. It could have been something off of a large, I don't know, truck or something that was in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. But I think, like I said earlier, I think they played into it a little too much, and then it started to get overwhelming, all the attention,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I think it was man-made,
Yeah.
probably.
I'm gonna err on the side of caution here and agree with you there, you know. So, but it's still never been proven of what it was.
Mm.
I tried to figure out where it was at, and I don't.
Yeah. Where is it currently?
I'm trying to look that up right now, and I know this is fantastic podcasting material. So I'm just going to keep rambling for just a second while I
It should be in
do
a
a quick,
museum or something.
what are we, Indiana Jones over here? Should be in a museum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, does the family still have it? Is the family still around? I
I
guess they could have
am,
it.
I am,
I would use
okay.
that as a paperweight on my mantle or something.
A 22-pound paperweight? That seems a little
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I would just put it up on a shelf
Yeah,
and just look at it.
let's put it up above eye level so that way when it decides to move, it crushes your foot. It
Right. Well,
just
I'll
wants,
have like a door latch, like a glass door, like a case, and it
hey,
just stays in the case.
that sphere goes where it wants, okay? If it's going to follow you, it's going to
Oh,
follow you. No,
all
I
right.
can't find out where it's at. I'm seeing a bunch of weird stuff now. I'm getting
Hmm.
into the rabbit hole of too many UFO people, man.
Yeah, maybe it went back to its home planet.
It did. You
It just
know,
got sucked back up.
there is actually a massive mothership that is shaped like a bird over the United States that we can't see, and that
Hmm.
was one of its eggs.
Yeah, I think so. And
So
it took it back.
we just
Mama
tied,
bird took it back.
yeah, we just tied everything together, wrapped it up,
Yep.
put a nice bow on it. Man, birds and spheres. That's what we're going with, Sarah. Birds and
Yeah.
fucking spheres.
All right. I like it.
Well, listeners, like I said, you guys got a double threat today, or a double whatever. I'm not going to, words are hard. You got two different things today. That's what you got. Both these just weren't really long enough for us to do a whole episode on. So we'll have something next week that is entirely dedicated just to one subject. But in the meantime, appreciate you guys listening. Check us out on any of the social medias that you will see below. Interact with any of the content that you see as well. Even something as simple as liking, commenting, or sharing goes so very far. And we appreciate all of you guys that are hanging out with us and listening to the podcast. And as always,
Remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching. See you next time on The Paranoid Perspective.
and